So the president's giving a talk about Iraq here. Specifically, this is August 2014, and he's talking about the strike on the Sinjar mountain there to save the Yazidis. Um, I I don't want to say exactly that it's a bunch of nonsense and propaganda. I don't doubt that there were Yazidis on a mountain, and I don't doubt that they were saved. Um, and to be honest with you, I don't even doubt that the mission of the United States was to save them. Um, but the way this is being presented is kind of. I think that in order to understand what the president says, and this will be true for the next president as well, you have to have a little bit of background and context as to who's fighting who and why. Um, so what do I think is really happening here in Iraq? Okay. The ISIL forces are largely driven by Saudi finances. There may be a little blowback there. But the purpose of this force is to tear down the colonial administrative lines in the region for preparation of a single state centered in the historical seat of power of the Arab world. The ethnic cleansing that's being taken place is an aspect of that. But it's also a kind of a tool for the United States to use to get governments to do what they want. And so, in Iraq, see, I think that if you listen to the narrative very carefully, you get the actual truth of it. But you have to listen to it very carefully to get it. Okay. And people will accuse me of throwing around conspiracy theories. That's not. I'm not telling you anything that isn't well researched, even if it's a little outside of the mainstream narrative. In fact, most of what I'm saying is reported on in the mainstream press. So, if you listen to what the State Department and the President are saying, what they're saying is that Iraq needs to come together and fight against a common enemy. Take all the divisions that are in Iraq and put everything aside and, go after the boogeyman kind of thing, right? And usefully, there's a boogeyman right there. Pretty nasty one too. I by no means mean to trivialize the substantial barbarity of this group. But yeah, if you want a boogeyman, it's a pretty frightening one. So, but if you listen to what they're saying carefully, there's that extra layer there, right? So you could come up with a conspiracy theory about, it's the whole neocon thing, unite against a common enemy. Okay, and that's the type of nation building. Um, that's probably is what Iraq needs in order to, pull itself back together again, is to unite against a common threat. Um, and the Americans might want it to be somebody else this time. Um, but there's always that clause, if you listen. They always say the Iraqis can unite against a common foe or face the consequences. And that's what ISIS is, relative to Iraq. But what that really means is that Iraq can do what the Saudis want or face the consequences. Over the summer of 2014, the big issue was getting an agreement in place. I can't remember the name of the. It's a special type of military agreement where the occupied power, or I don't even want to use it, the occupied country, provides a document to the occupying power stating that the occupying power is invited. The election in Afghanistan, or the mess in Afghanistan, was also largely about getting that document, because the Americans need it for legal and propaganda purposes. What the Americans seemed absolutely willing to state is that if you don't want to sign the document, then we're going to have to leave, and if we leave, well, that's what's going to happen. It's somewhat of a stick, if you see what I'm saying. And it's the Saudis that are putting all the effort and all the resources into it, because they're the ones that are ultimately setting the terms, right? Through their mercenary groups in America. Money talks. Of course, the strategic long-term interests from America are just to keep everybody at their throat, right? Just to create instability. But the Americans don't want the barbarians to know what their plans are, and they're okay with just playing the role of mercenary in the short term, keeping in mind the long-term goal, right? So you have to put the context together there in understanding that a big part of what ISIL is a threat of thugs that the Americans can use to force the Iraqis to do what they want. You call it a stick, you can call it leverage. And if they don't want to play ball, well, look at Syria. Look at Libya for a more successful example. Right? Now, I do actually think that it's true that the administration is very much concerned about the fact that these guys are a little out of control. And they don't like the ethnic massacring. They seem to, excuse me, they seem to recognize that it is within the Saudis' interests to clear the area of anybody that may create pushback to their, very conservative brand of Islam. But they don't like the genocide thing. So they're more into shipping them out kind of thing, right? And so you're going to see policies that don't make perfect sense there because there's a lot of conflict over that. The State Department is trying to find some kind of a middle point. My battery's about to go. I think I've made my point here. I'm probably not going to actually have a sandwich. I'm just going to stop here.